Hello, lovelies. Welcome to or welcome back to the Dollhouse. I am your yarn host, Kira, and it's been quite some time. I apologize for my absence. It's been rough. But I'm back, and today I bring you my top 10. I wish I knew this before I started. I've been thinking a lot past couple weeks. Well, I've not been able to make a video, so I figured I would bring you my best things to know before you start crocheting. Number 1, did not know the difference between yarn gauge. When you look on your label, all your labels are going to have a picture of a skein of yarn, and if I hold it right side up, you can see that it says 3. This is a 3. This is a DK weight. All of your yarn will have a weight on there. Weights are approximate. Weights will vary from brand to brand, from line in one brand to line in the same brand. Different lines have different thicknesses. You kind of go by the label, and then you kind of go by the feel of it. Matching yarns from brand to brand is often difficult. So when you're picking yarn for a project, try to stay within the same yarn line in one brand, and you will have more of a consistent feel and a consistent look to your project. Shopping online versus shopping in person. Shopping online is easy. Don't have to deal with crowds, don't have to deal with people, don't have to deal with germs, don't have to deal with parking. But shopping online, you can't feel the yarn. You can't get the same visual impression with the yarn. So, know things about a yarn company or about a yarn line before you buy them, or buy them with a little bit of wiggle room in your expectations. Because just because something says it's soft, your version of soft and my version of soft might be two very different things. I've come across this a lot of times, and even within a particular line, like if you're going with a red heart, anybody that uses red heart knows that some colors are softer than others, because sometimes it depends on which country it's made in, which factory it's made in, what kind of dye it uses, because some dyes change the texture. So the big bonus of shopping at a brick and mortar store is being able to see and feel the yarn in person. 3, do I need all of this stuff? And the one thing that I did end up getting, hold on, I'll be right back. The one thing I did end up getting was a yarn winder. I will tell you, crochet gadgets, any of the crochet gadgets, whether they're useful or not, you generally get what you pay for. This was the cheapest yarn winder I could find at the time, and it makes smaller cakes than the yarn cakes that come out from some of the more expensive winders. So I just have to make smaller cakes of yarn, or I'm going to have to splurge. There's not a whole lot of gadgets you need. You don't need a yarn winder. You can roll it up into a ball, just like our grandparents did. Just like, the world has survived making yarn balls for eons. I'm sure you don't need a yarn winder to start off, and it's okay to start with a cheap one. Just remember, generally, you get what you pay for. 4, caking yarn. When do you need a yarn winder? When do you need to cake your yarn? When your yarn comes in a skein, or it comes in a cake. You can leave it be. You can use it as is. Sometimes when you go on a inner pull on a skein of yarn, you get a little bit of yarn barf, or you get a exorbitant amount of yarn barf, which happened to me with my last ball of yarn, and I ended up turning one bunch of yarn barf into an entire cake of yarn because that's what came out of the middle. The only time you need to cake your yarn is if you need it to be more compact, or if it comes in a hank of yarn, which I'll put a picture over here because I don't buy hanks of yarn. Hanks of yarn generally need to be put on a swift, but if you don't have a yarn swift, you can always use the back of like a dining room chair. It just takes a little bit more work, but generally you put it on a swift to go to the yarn caker, so that way it'll unravel that little twisty yarn hank. But you don't have to make it into a cake. Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's if you're on the go and you just have your yarn cake in your project and you throw it in your bag. Sometimes that's easier than taking the whole skein with you. But you don't have to have a yarn caker. Like you don't have to have basket of stuff. You don't have to have a yarn butler. All it is a spindle on a spindle. Put your yarn on it, and that way you can unwind it from the outside. And it just spins along as you go. You don't need one. And again, if you buy cheap ones, the base will be light. You want a heavy base on these. If you have a heavy base, then it has less of a chance of you pulling the yarn and it going boop, as it tends to do on me, because I need to glue some weights on the bottom. Hooks. Number 6. 5 3/4, but I can't count this. 5. Hook sets. Do you need to buy a whole set of hooks? No. Do you need to buy a certain shape of hook? No. I have gone through, I can't tell you how many different kinds of hooks. I have your basic hooks. I have ergonomic hooks. I have flat hooks. I have wooden hooks. I have plastic hooks. I have... Buy what you're comfortable with. I'm starting to get arthritis, so the ergonomic hooks are working better for me than the stick hooks lately. Wooden hooks are sometimes good, sometimes bad. It's really just, it's personal preference, and pretty much a lot of times you get what you pay for. Not only should you look at the handle of the hook, but you should look at the hook itself. Your crochet hook, there you go. Your crochet hook should be slightly pointy at the top and should be very smooth all around so it doesn't snag the yarn. A lot of times if you get very inexpensive sets, they will have a sharp point on the end of the hook, or they'll have rough edges on the hook, which will snag your yarn, which is no good. You also have to think about handle length. That you can do as you're working. I knife grip mine. There's different ways to hold a hook depending on how you're comfortable. I grab a big hook so it's easier to see. I knife grip mine. I crochet like this because I am a Neanderthal, and that's just stabby holding. I don't know. this is how I learned, so this is how I do. There's different ways of holding your hook. Some people hold it like a pencil. I have no idea how people do that. That just boggles my brain. But you hold it how you want to hold it. Now, I have a problem with some of these ergonomic hooks because they don't give you very much hook to work with. I tend to use, I hold my hooks like this, and I use all of this space. I really don't, but if my handle goes all the way up here, I am not comfortable with just this much movement. I need this much movement. So, another thing to consider, although these silicone covered hooks, if the handle looks like it's not giving you enough hook, they're easy to fix. All you have to do is take an X-Acto knife and you can just cut your handle down, and that will give you a longer portion of the shank to work with. But depending on what you're making and what your yarn is, your yarn will tell you what size hook you need. And that's just the starting place. You don't have to use the recommended size. This recommends a 4.25 and it's a DK, a 3 weight. I'm using a 5 because I don't want teeny tiny stitches. I want it to be a little bit more open, a little bit more flowy. Your basic size is a 5. A 5 hook and a 6 hook will get you miles before you have to upgrade to a new set. But that's my comfy starting place. I was most comfortable starting with a 5 hook and then a 6 for a border. You always size up a little bit for a border. Gives it a more clean look. Patterns. Most patterns will tell you what hook size you need and what yarn size you need. Your pattern can be written, which a lot of times you have to learn stitch abbreviations. Like half double crochet would be HDC, double crochet would be DC. Now, there are variations between American terms and everywhere else. So, in England, their half double crochet, our half double crochet is their treble crochet. Our half double crochet is their double crochet. It's like a whole metric to Fahrenheit, Celsius conversion thing. So make sure you're either looking up, usually they go by British or American terms. You can also have them written out in plain English or plain language, which just tells you spelled out half double crochet. And that way you don't have to worry about knowing all the terms and definitions when you first start out. A lot of crochet alongs don't give you a written pattern, but will just talk to you in plain language. Half double crochet here, single crochet there, repeat 5 times. So you can also get diagram patterns, which just brain no works. Some people can read diagram patterns better than they can read the stitch abbreviation patterns. I can read a stitch abbreviation pattern. If you give me a diagram pattern, I have no idea. No clue. I can tell you what it's going to look like when it turns out, but I can't tell you how to start or do it. So figure out what kind of patterns you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with the stitch abbreviations, see if you like the diagrams better. If the diagrams and the abbreviations don't work, then there's always YouTube. All the yarny people, the yarn community on YouTube is huge. and vast and mostly free. So there's always here and people like me. Do you have to gauge swatch? Number 8. Do you have to gauge swatch? I have never gauge swatched in my life, but I have never made something that I wanted to ensure was absolutely perfect. I use the hashtag Can of Crochet. I tell everybody that I make things for that my house is cat and cannabis friendly, and your design may not be perfect, but it's made with love. Because I miss stitches. I count things wrong. Things happen. I try to get my edges straight. If my edges are straight and my borders are good, I'm usually pretty happy. If you want to make sure it's absolutely perfect, if you're one of those people that needs assurance that you're doing it right or it will come out the right size, then follow the instructions and do your gauge swatch. I have never made one. I don't know. I have never had to. I feel like crochet is not my job. Crochet is what I do to relax. So I don't want to do extra work on something that I don't consider work, if that makes any sense. Now, everybody will tell you that your yarn's important and how to do your stitches is important. Overall, the most important thing in crochet, I would say, is tension. If you can keep the tension on your yarn consistent throughout the whole project, all of your stitches will be even. So consistent tension is more important than how fast you can go or how many you can make or when can you get this done, or if you keep your tension controlled and even, your product will come out controlled and even. Also, a lot of basic techniques tell you how to slip knot, and they tell you how to do a stitch. No one ever verbally instructed me when I was first learning and could not figure out why somebody else made it look so easy. No one ever spoke to me and said, turn your hook. Now, if you've been crocheting for a while, you know this, but if you're just starting, you don't know that a basic stitch starts with your hook here, and you grab the yarn and turn your wrist, and then you grab the yarn and turn your wrist, and then you grab the yarn and turn your wrist. No one ever told me to turn my wrist, because you have to have the hook grab the yarn and then be able to slide through the rest of the stitch. So you have to be able to hook the yarn, but then you have to turn hook downwards so you catch the yarn and it'll slide through that loop. And see, you turn your wrist and the back of the hook glides through those loops. No one ever told me to turn my wrist. That would have made my whole experience like 300 times easier. Because when I was working on things, I was dragging a hook, I was breaking fibers, I couldn't figure out, I'm like, maybe I'm not doing it hard enough, maybe I'm doing this too hard, what am I doing? Nobody ever told me you have to turn your wrist. It's not just about going into a loop and doing a stitch. You have to turn your wrist. If that helped one person, I'm good. last one, I started doing a YouTube for me because beige walls, and I am stuck in the house a lot because chronic things, and I collect diagnoses like Pokemon. But YouTube channel upkeep is a whole lot more work than I thought it would be. I started the channel just as so I'm not sitting here just talking to the cat. I didn't expect anybody else to watch. I was pretty much just giving my brain something to do. So, if you're going to start a channel, the Yarniverse is huge. But everybody's different, and everybody has something to contribute. You want to start a channel? Realize that people are going to actually watch your videos, which is weird still. Those people are going to expect you to put more videos out, which is not always easy for planning things with, 16 doctors and all of the things. Gesturing wildly. All of the things. Because we're all going a little crazy right now. But if you want to put your little part of the universe out there, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? You could have a whole bunch of people watching you because I don't know. There's no end to that sentence because I don't know why. But I'm glad you're here. So, that's about all I have energy for. But I did want to get something up. Thank you to those that reached out to me. If you want to check out my Buy Me a Coffee, or if you want to send me an email, you can. Feel free. I'm always here, just not always able to do this. Okay, I am going to finish working on my birthday shawl, and I will show you guys that hopefully in a couple days when I finish it. But planning and this, and yeah. So thank you for being here. Be good, be kind to yourself. Sprinkle kindness like seeds. It's free. The world needs more. Everything's crazy right now. Everybody's crazy right now, myself included. You're not alone. Bells, whistles, subscribe, like, throw me into the algorithm. That'll screw everybody up. Bye, lovelies.